So someone has asked me to record this meeting, so I'll record it for others that can't show up. And there's been quite a number of others that want to come but couldn't make it. Well, I think we will probably get started. Let me just do some little organizations here. Get this. So this is spiritual stories, and I'll sort of help guide you through some of this. Usually we do sort of a little introduction in the beginning to talk about it. And what they are personal stories. So they're not lectures or anything like that. They're sharing our personal stories about the practical and mystical experiences and understandings along our spiritual path. And the Baha'i faith is sort of what it comes down to. And then we also welcome stories from others and anyone, we encourage attendance, of course. And, because the Baha'i faith is rather all embracing in this. And then our special focus is on stories that the Baha'is bring, which have special relevance to our times. So though we want to hear from anyone that has a story to share, because God's grace is vast, but we have a set of special stories that Baha'is usually have to tell. And then it has a moderator, that would be me, but it's not a lecture, and it's not the Tom show. Though if no one else shares, I have stuff to share. So that's sort of the way it works. And then we generally encourage fairly short stories, somewhere 5 minutes or something like that, so that more people can participate. I think the learning and the value really in spiritual stories is in the participation and how we learn from each other. So that's what that is. Sometimes we'll ask particular people to share something in advance. I know this is about our 5th or 6th sort of meeting. And early on, I remember that we were very lucky and fortunate to have Mr. Saba give some talks of his amazing youth in Iran, which was wonderful. And if we know someone has an exceptional story, we'll generally do that. So our goal is really to provide a template that could be used in other places. If this sort of prototype works, then there's no reason why it couldn't be reproduced in other places. And the thought is we can learn from each other and sort of bring people together and share our personal stories about the experience of faith. So that's really what spiritual stories is. And then a little brief introduction. All of you guys, I assume, are Baha'is, but just a few notes about the faith. It's a religion, not a philosophy or just a set of social principles. It's a big open movement, not a secret cult of any sorts. It's written in a history of blood of 20,000 martyrs. That's one easy way to distinguish between just a philosophy and a religion, by the way. It's the newest of the world's religion. It has no clergy, and it has a message for all faiths. And it's about what God is doing now. So that's sort of a brief introduction to Baha'i stuff. Oh, this is going to go double. Okay. So it's important in the beginning for our Baha'i perspective to show that we think of there being 2 plans of God, a greater plan of God, where God is available, moves, and can be found by all. Thus, spiritual stories can be found among all peoples and religions. It's important to hear and learn from these stories, as they're all generally from God. So I've heard just fantastic stories, from people of other religions, and I really think that's a great testament to the universality and of God's work. And then there's the lesser plan of God, which is God has called a special people to tell the world about the revolution occurring in the world, what it means and where it leads. And so Baha'is have a special set of stories to share. And so that's sort of where we go. And so, of course, our task is to help others see the plans and join in accomplishing them. So there's that. So I've divided up the spiritual stories into a set of steps. The first step is really why we search for God. And the second is the rational proofs of God. And so that's generally our focus today will be that. And then spiritual proofs of a new faith, prophecies and signs of the time. I've already prepared one of these, and I've actually switched the order of these a little bit. So the spiritual proofs part I've done, and I'll make available if anyone wants. And we can talk at the end about, how we want to go forward and if we need to revisit that. And then this is one of my favorite things to talk about, is where I get to talk about you guys. And you get to talk about spiritual teachers that you've had. I've been very blessed in my, life, and have had wonderful spiritual teachers. And so I think that for us to share those stories will be a nice thing. And then becoming Baha'i is, there's all sorts of new practices and theological challenges and things like that can come up. And so that we can talk about. And then teaching stories, spiritual gifts, and confirmations. Again, I've had remarkable stories to tell in that regard, and I think you guys probably have too. Pioneering, certainly some interesting stories there. Challenges and victories in the faith, assembly membership, diversity, all sorts of different challenges can come up, and it's sort of good, I think, to talk about those sort of things. And then commitments. So sort of ongoing commitments. So that's sort of the steps along the path, and there's sort of an arc to it. So it sort of begins, and it's a sort of personal arc, but it's not an uncommon arc, I don't think. So we, search for God or have some understanding about God, and then we have rational proof, spiritual, then we have teachers, then becoming Baha'i, and stories and pioneering challenges and commitments. So that's sort of the way it sort of evolves. So today there's the topic is the rational proofs of God. And it strikes me that a good place to start is who or what is this God you're talking about? It's interesting, having lived in different countries and different parts of the United States. The experience in these different parts is really quite different in terms of religion. And so in many times, and I think in increasingly secular society, there's not much talk of God, sometimes for good reason. So it's good to sort of begin there. And so I thought that we would start by saying, look, Baha'i faith is not so unlike other religions in that we affirm that we really can't know God. And this is a quote from Thomas Aquinas, the great Catholic sage and saint. He says, "In the last resort, all that man knows of God is to know that he does not know him, since God surpasses all that we can understand of him." And that's very much along Baha'i teachings as well. In fact, and I just love this quote, this is, it says, 10,000 prophets, each a Moses, are thunderstruck upon the Sinai of their search at his, God's, forbidden voice, "Thou shalt never behold me." Whilst a myriad messengers, each as great as Jesus, stand dismayed upon their heavenly thrones by the interdiction, "Mine essence thou shalt never apprehend." And then there's many prayers along this sort of line here. It says, "Glory be unto thee, thou art exalted above the description of anyone save thyself, since it is beyond human conception to befittingly magnify thy virtues or to comprehend the inmost reality of thine essence." So if this is true, if we can't know God, then what are we talking about? And I think it boils down to this, that what we call God is the unconquerable source of all progress and goodness. And we know it through his chosen ones and through spiritual resonances, such as justice, mercy, compassion, bounty, radiance, etc. So that's sort of a preface for today. Okay, so here's where it gets fun, and we get out of Tom mode and into you guys mode. So, and it may work best. So if you have, and just so you're not nerd, you don't have to participate, but I would, ultimately the goal is to get us all, chatting about things. And then I have a backup plan, and I can certainly share some of my proofs if there's nothing that comes to mind. But does anyone want to talk about what your, in a couple of minutes, what your thought is about why you believe there is a God? I tell you what, you can raise your hand electronically or physically raise your hand if you're on camera. So.
I could.
Yeah, Carrie.
I can speak a little bit to this. I'm working on a book on science and the Baha'i faith, and one of the passages that I'm putting in the book is the Tablet of the True Seeker, informally called the Tablet of the True Seeker. It's not. I don't think it's actually called that in real life, but it's from the Book of Certitude, pages 192 to 196. And in there, I just love the Tablet of the True Seeker. Because Baha'u'llah, for me, gives the process by which we know God. And it's very specific. And it talks about confirmations. And it's through confirmations that a gnat gets changed into an eagle. Mm. So what are those confirmations? In the Tablet of the True Seeker, he describes how to achieve those confirmations, and it's through service. Of course, it's through cleansing, and there's a whole list of things. But then he says, when the detached wayfarer and sincere seeker have fulfilled these essential conditions, then and only then can he be called the true seeker. Whensoever he hath fulfilled the conditions implied in the verse, whoso maketh efforts for us, he shall enjoy the blessings conferred by the words, in our ways shall we assuredly guide him. So that, to me, it says that certitude is earned through the testing and the action that we take in life. And of course, that's what religion is for, to help us do that. Baha'u'llah also writes that every atom has been created so that man might know God. So this entire physical universe is so that we will move towards what he's describing here in the Tablet of the True Seeker, at least to me. So then he goes on to say that knowledge and certitude will be yours but it's a covenant between this, hopefully by now, the true seeker who's followed these instructions. And then throughout the 50 or 60 years that we live on this planet, we have this conversation with God, that as we serve, we are confirmed, that as we pray and serve and are attempting to be a true seeker, what we receive are these confirmations. That every prayer, it talks about those confirmations, that's how we hear God. That's how we are loved by God. The other thing that he said is this lovely passage about all that is in, O son of dust, all that is in heaven and earth I have ordained for thee, except the human heart, which I have made the habitation of my beauty and glory. And the human heart, I've found in other places, is defined as the seat of the love of man for God. That's what the human heart is. It's the seat where that takes place. And he says, it belongs to me. It doesn't belong to you. I reserve this. And this is where this these transactions happen. And so that as we grow in love, we also grow in knowledge. And the twin capacities of man are knowing and loving, and they're reciprocal. So then he goes on to say, out of the clay of love I molded thee, and thou dost busy thyself with another. Turn thy sight unto thyself, that thou mayest find me standing within thee. So over and over again, he's saying this is an intimate, individual relationship, which is why, to me, there's no way I could prove to anybody of the existence of God. That it's individual. It's meant to be individual, so that each person who's in this physical world and is moving towards an understanding and a love of God has to be alone. There's no way to describe it except, oh, it's wonderful. And all Baha'is talk about that, even not just Baha'is, but other faiths. They say, oh, I've had that experience, that confirming experience. You go, oh yeah, me too. So to me, it's universal in every faith, but in our faith, it's just so beautifully said, and it's the reality. Having been a Baha'i a long time, that is the gift. That when we're in real trouble, but we're trying, God confirms us. He says, "I'm here. Keep going. Yeah, you didn't do so well, but that's okay. You tried." And that little conversation that we keep having, and we fall in love with it. And that's something that is hard to explain to anybody, but who hasn't had it. But we've all had it. We've all felt that, I'm sure. But to me, then, the sort of scientific proof of the existence of God, one can talk about, I suppose, Aristotle, first cause and unmoved mover and all that, but it's missing the love. You can know that on some level, but you're still spitting in the dark in terms of trying to convince anybody else of that, which is why people still argue about the existence of God, and there's so many atheists in the world. It doesn't quite work. But when you have that experience personally over years of effort, nothing can take it away.
Yeah. Carrie, thank you so much. That was, I'm so glad you started us off in that way, because, in my own reality, I want to just chime in a resonance with that, is that I don't think I knew anything at all about God until I started teaching the faith. And it was only through that I became aware of the powers that are involved in the faith. And it's exactly as Baha'u'llah said. And I like so much the thing that you said, and it bothers me that I think that so few people really understand the power of the revelation itself, because they haven't had those experiences, because they don't know how to teach. And so a lot of what we're doing here in Spiritual Stories is sort of refreshing our own understanding of the teaching process, and sort of rehearsing, as you will, our own proofs. And so that's, I think, thank you so much for starting us off in that way. So anyone else share this? It's an open floor. You just got to turn your mic on and go for it.
I can share.
Amber, go for it. Yeah.
Hi. I just want to say first off, though, that I just love that this question is being asked at all, because I really feel like it just caused me to really reflect on, why do I believe in God, because I think operate so much on like autopilot so much of the time that I'm not really thinking about that. And it was good. It made me realize, because I came to believe in God when I was about 16, because I suffered from a lot of like depression as a teenager, and I just had certain I guess sort of like revelatory experiences, like where I kind of felt that, like, it sounds cheesy, but that whole thing of like feeling like I was filled with light or something, and like I just got these moments of just like this perfect certainty. And I think like, and this is before I was Baha'i, just to be clear, I became Baha'i when I was 20. So 4 years later. But I think, you know, obviously if I didn't believe in God, I don't think I would have become Baha'i. Yeah. So I just think like in, you know, since then, I feel like I've just sort of tried to like reaffirm that relationship, but I've never had that feeling. I think it was just like, and it makes me think like, you know, that's really all you need. You need like one little like atom or whatever of like God's love. And it's so powerful. That experience is so powerful. You really can't forget it. And it's so, again, it's so personal, like Carrie, sorry, was saying before, because it's not like you can just say someone, oh, you know, oh, this is a certainty, you know, that doesn't mean anything. Those are just words. It's that personal experience that once you have, you just can't forget, you know, it just sort of stays with you. But I just want to say, because people keep saying like everyone's Baha'i. My husband is not Baha'i, by the way. I don't even know if he believes in God. So he's not everyone here. Do you believe in God? I don't know. That's personal to ask. But
Yeah.
my husband, Martin.
Yeah, she asked me to join. So.
Good.
He's a
No,
little agnostic, I think.
you know, Martin, I tell you just my story is that I grew up with some significant hardship in life. And I had sort of a vague understanding of God. And I think that's what most people have, is some vague, you know, understanding. And so it was really a revelation to me as I, you know, began to have a deeper understanding of the faith. But, you know, it's such a personal journey that it's and our task, even though it's good for us to know about rational proofs. Abdul Baha spends some time talking about rational proofs of God. The reality is, until you experience it and become familiar with sort of the potentials of it, it's really hard to make sense of it, heads or tails. So don't feel any pressure here. Just relax and enjoy the show, so to speak. So, and if you have questions, of course, ask, and then we can do it. So anyone else want to chat? I'd love to hear from some more.
I just want to piggyback one thing off of what you just said,
Yeah.
though, because
Yeah.
I think about my children, because I'm always saying to my children, though, I still think like, you know, like it's like that Baha'i prayer, if thou lovest me not, my love can no wise reach thee, or sorry, that's not the full thing. You guys, of course, know it. But it's the idea that you have to extend yourself to God in order to sort of receive things back from God, which I think is so weird. I do say that to my kids because I do think that's kind of true. Like even as a teenager, because I had started reading philosophy and stuff, which is how I sort of started asking questions to God, even though I didn't believe in God, which is so weird and counterintuitive. But I do kind of wonder about that. Like I think there's, I don't know, other people can share, but you know, like you have to extend yourself or try to get, try to speak to God in order for God to speak back to you, or I don't know.
Makes sense to me. So who else can start us off? Any old thing is fine. I mean, if someone says, well, yeah, why do you believe in God? What are you going to say? Bill. Oh, yeah, mic is off, Bill.
Tom, I just.
Oh, I'm unmuted right now, but hold on a minute. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just wanted to share that with me, it's a feeling like God won't leave me alone. You know, it's it's like there's always this yearning that I have to know, and especially to know about the next world. You know, and you know, I'm always fighting my own, as it says in the faith, idle fancies and vain imaginings. You know, so I'm always on guard on that, and that takes up a lot of my time. But when I'm not doing that, it's like there's this yearning, and I think it's what Carrie said, you know, your heart belongs to God, and so I think maybe that it's that part of me that's being pulled towards God.
Thank you, Bill. That is so excellent. You're lucky, man. God won't leave you alone. That's a good thing. Very good. Who else has got something they can share?
May I suggest that Mr. Olson talk about, because I was interested about what Amber said about her husband. I want to hear from from him,
Okay.
because his
Okay.
views is a bit new. It's better
For
we
us.
listen to him.
Oh yeah. Well, I grew up in Norway. I moved to the United States when I was 24. I just hadn't heard about Baha'i faith before I moved here in the early 2000s. And actually, I hadn't heard of it actually before I met Amber. So that was a few years ago. I grew up with Christian faith. It was sort of just state. It's a state church over there, so it just kind of forced upon you, you know. And I don't know. This all is kind of new to me, but she told me a lot about it. It's very interesting. I like the, you know, that it's sort of science based and you know, it doesn't discriminate science or you know, belief in like actual modern science, you know. But yeah, it's not like I go around thinking that I don't believe in God. But I have not had that like experience that you guys have had, like the the atom, or that you call it, or the Thai. I'm sure, or I'm sure you guys all have had like profound experiences. I just haven't had that. But you know,
I can tell you, Martin, in about 3 weeks or so, it depends on how fast we go through the steps. There's a whole session, maybe 2 sessions, where we talk about spiritual confirmations. And my guess is that that would be really fun and illuminating to hear, especially if you haven't had those. Because honestly, I didn't think these things existed until I experienced them. So, you know, we'll have, you know, I'm thinking that'll be a good session. So we don't have to do everything today is what it comes down to. So
I want to ask a question from you. What you said, I don't know your first name, Mark, you said?
no, Martin.
Martin, sorry, because it's not written. I don't know. Martin, I want to know, because I always grew up in a family that, you know, it somehow there was a belief in God or a power that is above us. But it's interesting for me. I want to know, in your mind, when you think about don't you feel that there is something, some power, some energy, some force stronger than us in this world? Do you have that feeling at all, or no? You think that we are there and we are. You don't feel that is the question for me, because I think
No, I do.
The minute
I totally. I don't know if I want to call myself spiritual, but I totally believe there's a lot of things as humans we haven't figured out yet, especially when it comes to I do a lot of YouTubing, and I've seen a lot of people talking about spiritual experiences, near-death experience. There's people talking about we live in a simulation. Nothing related to Baha'i, but I've seen some videos that talk about these sort of things, and I really think there's something out there. I mean, I just don't know.
Yes.
But so I guess maybe I'm on some kind of journey, you could say, where I'm interested, but you know, I have not experienced it myself.
No, I wanted to assure you that I am 4th generation Baha'i, but I'm exactly like you. I have lots of, I mean, I don't think that any of those spiritual experiences, such as after death experience or this or that, I do not consider any one of them connected to God or anything spiritual. These are something of our mind. And I know that if me or you could answer and discover God, certainly that is not God. Because it's, I think it's very interesting. I have come to the conclusion that anybody that proves God is proving something of his own. Anybody that rejects God is rejecting someone or something that is not God, because it's completely beyond us. And we may never, I think we will never know it. But I think there is a feeling whenever I see the perfection, the beauty of the nature, I see the power that exists. Somehow I feel that there is, if you come to a building, it's an empty, you don't see anyone, but you hear a magnificent music somewhere. You have somehow at the bottom of your heart, you're sure that there is a magnificent musician in that room, in that place, but we don't know who, where, what. This is what I feel that this is the maximum that we can discover, all of us. I don't think that any one of us, more spiritual, less spiritual, we can know anything more than that, just to feel that there is something very magnificent in this world that is beyond us. But we feel it, it's there. I mean, whenever, still at the bottom of my heart, whenever I say I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that, but when I'm under tremendous pressure or stress or depression or I'm scared of something, somehow still I believe that there is something that may help me, somewhere that may help me. I think that's what I just, it's my experience. But I think you are not anything behind any one of us.
Thank you.
It's a really good point, Martin. Is that, I mentioned earlier that we have no clergy, but also it's, we're all in this together. There's really, each one of us may have a little tiny piece of, wisdom or knowledge we've picked up along the way, but it's the movement, and really Baha'is in general, as I've experienced them, it's really good to be humble when you're talking about something you don't understand. And when we talk about God, humility is a good thing. So very good. But before we go on, I want to note, I see my dear friends, RFA and Klaus, and I haven't seen them in so long, and it just makes me so happy to see them. Oh my goodness.
Same here.
Yeah, where are you? Are you still in the Atlanta area?
We are sitting in Martinez in the Bay Area, California.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we were living there just not 3 years ago. We were in the Bay Area. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah. Oh geez. Well,
We moved here 4 years ago.
Oh, I missed you. That's terrible.
Yeah, just by 1 year. Right.
Oh, I get it. Well, this is like old home week for me, because I see RFA and Klaus and Bill, who I haven't seen, and God, Bill's it been 40 years. So yeah, it's incredible. And Carrie, this is just wonderful. So
I haven't seen the Langildas either.
Yeah.
Hey.
There you are.
There you go. It's amazing.
Is that the Carrie Murphy of
That is the Carrie
famous Murphy Firesides in Decatur?
That's the one.
Yeah, the very same.
Wow. Wonderful to see you.
Oh, it's so sweet to see you guys. Oh my gosh.
Good to see you, Carrie.
Good to see you all, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So we have about 20, a little over 20 minutes. I usually try to end in an hour so we don't get exhausted. I would really love to hear from some others, and if not, then we can push on. Klaus, please.
Yeah, Martin, I hear where you're coming from in different ways. Number one, you are Scandinavian like I am. I'm from Denmark. So when you say, when you say, the church is automatic in Scandinavia, Lutheran, and even though my grandfather was the pastor and we went to church, I had no clue what God was about. It was something. and I didn't really believe in any kind of God. Yeah, it exists probably. Somebody says it is. But, you know, when I traveled around a lot and met people from different parts of the world, I became a Baha'i after a while. And I realized, wait a minute, there has to be something more than me looking at nature. I know Friar Bosch mentioned something about the nature. When I look at nature, it is perfect. It's perfection. When I look at the universe, it's amazing. It's perfection. And it goes on and on and on and on. There's no way anyone or anything can create that. It has to be something that is beyond perfection. It has to be something that is more than what I see. It's something unknown to me. And it is so powerful to me that I say, okay, there is a God, or there is something called God. What it is, of course, I cannot explain it because I was created. Like they say in Baha'i faith, a table was created by a carpenter. The carpenter had no clue. I mean, the table has no clue who created it. The carpenter knows it, but the table does not. And I'm created. I know that there is a creator. That's all. What it is like, I have no clue. But there is something there. And I think that science explains it. I read a couple of books and the scientist says, well, after this, I have to leave it to God because I cannot go any further now. The next step is God. So I hear where you're coming from, Martin, and I'm with you. That was just my short comment.
Thank you, Klaus. Tusen Dank.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, Klaus.
Sure.
Anyone else want to speak? Okay, well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll share a few of my thoughts, and then I will get you out of here on time. Let me just do some adjusting of my things here. This image, this seemingly simple image has been a real revelation to me, and I'll share it. So I've learned through the Baha'i faith that we learn of God largely through His chosen messengers, right? Of which there's been, that we know of in recorded history, there's been half dozen, a dozen, something like that, and these messengers, I think I put it here, they're really like a window frame that allows us to see something we would otherwise know even more indirectly, say by heat or warmth. So I want to focus a little bit on this particular thing for a while. So the messenger or chosen one of God is this frame. The thing that He reveals to us in our little otherwise dark room is this unknowable thing that we know of God, right? But the frame itself is human, but it reveals to us this thing that is much greater. If we didn't have this, what we would experience of God, if this window were closed, or if there were no window, we may have some idea that there's a God because we could feel the heat or the warmth, a sort of passive, understandings of this. But when we bump across these messengers of God, suddenly we have a tremendous access to something much more powerful than us. And I don't know about you guys, but when I've read a lot from other religions, and whether I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita or especially the Upanishads and Hinduism, or if I read any numbers of the Buddhist text, Islam, Christianity, I feel as if I'm in contact with a mind that is so powerful, that is so illumined, that I'm getting this radiance that's coming from them that I otherwise would be so dimly able to understand. And so what that really does is the appearance and unified message of these chosen ones is to me, a powerful proof of God. So Baha'u'llah often talks about this proof, and it took me a long time to understand it. And it's in part because I needed an image that fit me. And for me, the frame image works well. And so I share it with you on that. Also, I can tell you about sort of indirect proofs, and it's sort of along the line of what Klaus was getting to. So I at some point I ran across a list of 555 proofs of God. Turns out it was put together by an atheist society. So clearly not very effective. And I think it gets to exactly what Carrie was talking about that started us off, is that if you haven't experienced it, you can't prove it. You know, it's a different beast. So I'll share 3 proofs. They're probably on that list of 555, but I haven't the patience to go through it. But I'll share 3 things that sort of have worked for me. And I'm going to do it by reading from an article that I put in Baha'i Teachings, because I think I write better perhaps than I speak. So let's go. So I'm going to put this in the form of a riddle, and it's called The Works Director. And it says, it's science when we discover how our world works, and art when we reveal what we are called to manifest. It's labor when we toil to build society, and recreation when we take time to repair. It's friendship when we delight in another, and procreation when we are called to reproduce. It's community when we order our lives together, and civilization when we spread this order. But why do we do these things? And I think this is sort of what Klaus was talking about, and Bill too, for that matter. What directs and compels our action? It's more than just our push for survival. It's insatiable in its desire to be expressed, to create and evolve. So Bill, I understand what you're talking about, that God won't leave you alone. It's indefatigable in advancing unity. It does not consider the odds. It's something within us that drives us to discover, to create, to labor, to be with another, to procreate, and to relentlessly build and order. It's a single force that moves us to act, to become, and improve the world. Now, but what are we who are so moved? We seem to be sentences, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and more, set in motion by an unseen author. We are made to rhyme with other words before and after us, in chapters and books, in a great evolving, perfecting story. We are instruments, sounding out a symphony when we are tuned and true, being played in a divine melodic score. But who is the author, and who the composer of all these stories, rhymes, and tunes? It must be God acting within us, driving us toward perfection and a divine and social completion. So there's my understanding, if you will, of a proof of God, sort of an intuitive, personal thing. Me wrestling with the same things that Bill was talking about. What is it that moves us, that drives us? So there's
Well said, Tom. So well said.
Thank you, Klaus. I have my moments, but only occasionally. So a few observations from the works director. This should be it. It seems that we're part of an enormous divine plan. We're not independent authors of our destiny. We take part in a physical and social system created for us and guided by mysterious and ultimately unknowable spiritual forces. And then this is Baha'i writings affirm, and I'll just go to the bottom. It says, yet for that essence of essences, that truth of truth, the mysteries of mysteries, there are splendors, effulgences, manifestations, and appearances in the world of existence. So one way we know God, even if you don't run across the manifestation of God, there's these other things that this is a beautiful quote in the Old Testament about this, also in Christian scripture and every scripture that I found, that all of reality speaks of this perfection, this ongoing unfoldment that we experience. And then these splendors are in us, but are revealed even more so in the founders of religion and in the unfolding plan they advance. And the divine plan unfolds slowly, making mistakes and correcting imperfections as it goes, in some places faster than others. The physical signs, well known to evolutionary biologists, make evolution visible, but the signs of social and spiritual evolution, less visible but just as real, show the divine plan at work. Yes, the world has problems, but we humans continually work on them, casting aside slavery, helping women achieve their rights, protecting children, preventing wars, and spreading justice, which is the best beloved of all things, according to the writings of Baha'u'llah. In fact, we act guided by some invisible directive, woven, as it were, into our DNA. We want a better, more just and peaceful world, and we bend our efforts toward that vision of human goodness. Given enough perspective and wisdom, we can know what is right and work to bring it about. This drive comes from an inborn knowledge, providing evidence of a divine unfolding plan, and hints for the one who put it there, God. It's not simply Darwinian evolution. No reasonable person can deny the importance and effect of random changes and natural selection in our world. Biological entities evolve, but the system as a whole determines if new creations remain stable. And I'm getting near the end here. Our human progress, though greatly influenced by random biological and evolutionary processes, occurs because of the meaning we find in it. We are actors in a cause seeking perfection. We are seekers looking for progress in what lies hidden but can be found. It's not random. We try to bring into being corrections or improvements in the quality of life. Further, our discoveries resonate. They stir our being and bring us happiness, as if we found a trace of God and the divine plan. It's not just survival that motivates us, it's the search for and discovery of meaning, purpose, and hidden order. So I think, and then here's a little thing from the Abdul Baha talking about the divine forces that move us, if you will. So there are skeptics, of course, and they can argue that there is no, and this gets back to where we started. You can certainly argue that I'm ascribing meaning where none exist, or ascribing that things that require no attribution. But this denies the value of the experience of found meaning and living a life in harmony with the divine plan. Is this meaning illusion? It's hard to prove it's not, but the experience of meaning in our lives is real enough. Indeed, it's transformative. So to me, the discovery of a progressive, meaningful, and harmonizing force in life is proof enough that there's a God and a divine plan. Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. So there's that. So that's the first of my 3 proofs. The others are only, I think, 1 slide, which is good, but that one took a while to sort of elaborate. Any thoughts on that? Make sense? Hogwash? Okay. Okay, so I'll share then my 2 others, and then we can sort of think about wrapping up. So here's my second proof. It has to do with the joy we feel in the praise of God. And it says, the joyousness seems to me like the mark of a creator who wants to be known and loved, and has thus engineered a system which rewards us with happiness and faith when we do. And then a little passage from Abdul Baha here. It says, "Wherefore, O beloved of the Lord, strive ye with heart and soul to receive a share of his holy attributes and take your portion of the bounties of his sanctity, that ye may become the tokens of unity, the standards of singleness, and seek out the meaning of oneness, that you may in this garden of God lift up your voices and sing the blissful anthems of the Spirit." So it's this anthems of the Spirit that sort of resonates with me. "How full and right it feels to recite beautiful prayers, to sing God's praise, and recount evidence of God's plan. Even a shy person like me is moved to sometimes to sing about God. None of this is to say that people of religion can do no wrong. They certainly can and do, but the wrong they do doesn't last, and it's not if it's not true to the plan, and the good they do builds the social structures that sustain us." So for me, that sort of experience of experiential thing is it. And then the third proof is even shorter, and it's prophecy. It just, and I'll just sort of scroll through this. I don't know, we need to speak about all of it. But I'll tell you that I've spent, I came from a Christian background, and being raised in the South, Christianity was sort of in the water, so to speak. So I had to sort of come to peace with my Christian upbringing. So I spent years sort of working on prophecy and stuff. And then when I finished, you never finish, but when I sort of understood enough of Christianity, I went to Judaism, and then I went to Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam. And the consistency of prophetic messages is so powerful. It reveals to me a token of a plan, a divine plan. And so that is a proof to me of that there's a God. So there's my 3 proofs, guys. And I figured it would be something, but I think you guys have already covered it better than I have, or better than I could. It says, "In the end, however, all logical proofs of the existence of a creator and a creative plan have their limits. Human logic and reason can't possibly encompass everything because being human, logic has the same limitations people do. We require something else to find faith, some help, assistance, and guidance from a higher power. In the next essay in this series, I'll try to explain." Well, maybe. We'll see how it is. So that's just stuff from Baha'i teachings, and I can stop that now. Well, guys.
Let me comment on your wonderful book on prophecy that you wrote, Tom. And I have not one but 2 copies, and I you did a great job on that. So you did more than just read prophecy. You put it all together.
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie. It's interesting. One of the things I wish I could do is rewrite that book. You may not have the disease I have, but I can never finish with something. So every time I read, I say, that's the wrong darn word. I should use a different word. And it drives me crazy. But at least the scholarship, I think, is reasonably sound. So that's a good thing. So, well, dear friends, my gosh, I've enjoyed you guys, and you've really completed this episode well. We could talk more. We could do more of the spiritual proofs, or we could do more of the rational proofs. I don't think we would get much further than we got today, to be frank. It was such a good conversation, and you guys covered so much. I have recorded this, and so we can post this if you don't have objections at some place, and then others that weren't able to come, can certainly check it out. Yes, Bill?
Just wanted to say, Tom, that I really enjoyed your presentation. It brought me joy.
Oh.
And I will share it with Linda.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, you guys bring me a lot of joy. Let me ask you, though, the spiritual proofs was largely prophecy, and I've changed the order of steps. So I don't think I need to do it again, though I could. We could do it, you know, we meet the second Sunday of every month is our current plan. So I could do a sort of better version. We had some technical issues last time, or I could simply record it and make it available to friends, and we could skip ahead if you want to the next one. And let me find out what the next one actually is. Hold on.
Are you speaking about these meetings or a different?
Yeah,
meeting? You say
right.
Second,
Yeah.
the second
These
Monday.
meetings. So the next topic for spiritual, we could, if you want, we could revisit the prophecy thing. I could do my thing, and then you guys could add also stuff, or we could just skip ahead to spiritual teachers. So what's your? Do you have a preference or thought on that?
I would love you to do a prophecy thing, and we can chime in.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've
All right.
done all this work.
Okay. Well,
Not to use it.
okay. So it'll be fun. Let's do that again for next time. And then the good news is we won't have the technical issues that we had when I did it last time. And I've done some more work on it, so I think that it'll be even better. So yes, Bill.
Is it possible to get your slides separate from the recording? I've got an atheist in the family, and I'd like to take another crack at her.
Okay. Good luck with that. Yeah, of course, Bill. Let's just send, do you have my email address?
Yes.
Yeah, just send it to me, and then I'll send you a copy of the slides.
Thank you.
And then we'll make this thing available to everybody. You know, I'll send it out. So again, I think that the real value of this, frankly, is not so much for us, but for youth. And so I would really like to see if we could get some youth involved, because I worry, you know, people are going to ask them, well, gee, you belong to a religion. Well, why do you believe in God? And I think we've done a good job of sort of covering what this means today. But I do worry about our youth. So if you have youth that you want to invite, or anyone you want to invite, please feel free. And then otherwise, then we'll meet. Uh-oh, my daughter Erin just showed up. Hi, Erin.
Everyone, I am a youth. And I was out on the water all day paddleboarding, and I was sitting here looking like a wet dog, so I was off camera. But I attended, I thought I'd just share this. I attended because I grew up a Baha'i, and similar to Martin, I struggle with the idea of it sometimes. And I've just been really trying to explore it and understand like why I loved the faith so much growing up, and then what kind of has brought me a little bit away from it since then. So I really appreciated hearing everyone's stories, even though I was off camera. So thank you, everyone.
Very good. Thank you.
It's wonderful to see you. This is the first time I've ever seen you.
And then my mom is down there.
Yes,
Piece the whole family together.
great.
Okay,
I knew your father when he was a college student. And now he's an old man.
It's super weird to think about. I read his Facebook post, and I believe you commented, I think. And I really loved reading the comments because it really, you know, showed my dad in a different light. And you all know him. Sorry if you heard that ding. But you all know him in a much different way than I do. So I really loved hearing your stories and how you know him. So
Aaron, he was a skinny guy with dark hair and a lot of energy.
That's right.
oh my God, I've seen pictures. I'm sure he was a hoot.
I think that
Was.
pretty much covers all the males in this group here.
He was a wonderful hoot.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay,
Enjoyed him
guys.
so much.
Well, then I will see you in a month, the second Sunday of every month at 4 o'clock Pacific time. And I know that some others who were not here will be joining us then. So thank you guys. It's so good to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Good
everyone.
to see you, Shide, and Mr. Parsa, Paramars.
Good to see you all.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
Yes.
Take care.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
Good to see everyone.
Good night.